we're just scratching around for some form of champion hurdle contender, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. In this video, me and Andrew are going to dissect the weekend's racing and look ahead to what looks like another solid weekend of racing, Grade 1 action over in Ireland and over here at Sandown as well. Andrew, we were both at Fairyhouse on Sunday, a very special day. We thought we were witnessing history with Honeysuckle. Just how good was she?
Yeah, she was absolutely superb, Josh. There's no getting away from it. I think the fact that the race was run so hard and she took it up so far out, they got racing plenty early, her and Ronald Pump, and she's ended up slamming those rivals in behind. I thought Ronald Pump ran a pretty respectable race. Abacadabras was a little bit flat in third, but she's just so good. Like, and it's I said it on the audio podcast yesterday, Josh, that you know it's a privilege to go and see her and to see the crowd that she's beginning to bring to racing, because you could tell plenty of people were there to see Honeysuckle and they didn't disappoint.
It was a great atmosphere, and I'm really looking forward to delving into some of that Irish racing. We've also got the likes of Thomas Darby, John Bon, Cloudy Glen to get stuck into in the Ladbroke Trophy. So if you do enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We've got an exciting week of content for you, so please do go over and listen to our audio podcast over on the Racing TV channel. It'll be linked down below. You can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast. And then we've got this video previewing the weekend, and then we've got a special recording Sunday night, going up Monday morning. We've got a special Cheltenham mid-season anti-post review. We've done 5 episodes so far. It'll be the 6th. I don't think there's going to be many more than 12 come the festival. So we're going to say this mid-season. Hopefully many clues this weekend, the likes of Envoy and the John Durkan. That could really enhance my portfolio book of slips. And there's plenty of others that we need to talk about. So we're going to go division by division. We're going to hopefully have Kilcrittis or Gerhard this weekend. We're going to reflect on John Bon and go through all of those big talking points. There's something to look forward to. It'll be Monday morning when you can watch that. So do go over and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and enjoy. So let's go into more detail about Honeysuckle then in the Hatton's Grace. I was stood next to you in the stands, and I thought they went a really good clip with Stormy Island leading the way, and I thought Honeysuckle and Ronald Pump got racing very early. I said she's going to have to stay 3 miles to get home here. It was a worry. I definitely thought that have they gone too hard? No, I was completely wrong. She took the lead, she went 4 or 5 lengths clear and just kept going away, and it was just brilliant. And I think you said after that maybe that could have been just as good of a Honeysuckle that we've ever seen. Yeah,
I think it was, to be honest, and certainly in years gone by, in races gone by, when she's been clear at the last, she sometimes can stutter into that last hurdle and lose all momentum. She locked on going down to that final hurdle and absolutely pinged it, which, you know, to the chorus of great cheers from the stands. And it's great to see such a good horse in action like that. And as you say, to take it up, you know, her and Ronald Pump really swamped Stormy Ireland around the 4 or 5 furlong pole mark, you know, and really got going. And I suppose the rest of them were left flat-footed in behind. They couldn't go the gallop early, and they couldn't really even pick up the pieces either. I thought an Abacadabras might pick up more pieces than he did, but he was left very flat-footed. And for a horse that, you know, like him, who is a good horse, a Grade 1 winner, and usually travels on the snaff in 2-mile races, for him to be so outpaced would indicate just how well they've gone and how good Honeysuckle was.
Over here we had the fighting 5th at Newcastle, and you had Epatante there, you had Montmorel, and it was a dead heat between Epatante and Not So Sleepy. And we're just scratching around for some form of champion hurdle contender, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon. You almost think that with Appreciate It and Fernie Hollow definitely going chasing. Bob Ollinger's already made his chasing debut. They look maybe like the standout novices that could, if they were to stick to hurdles, put it up to Honeysuckle, but they're going chasing. Epatante, Montmorel, what did you make of that as well? Because you've got kind of 2 sides of the spectrum. Honeysuckle just getting better and better and better, and Epatante seems to be maybe going backwards ever so slightly.
Yeah, certainly she seems to be plateauing a little bit. You would have thought this time last year, this time 2 years ago, certainly, that she would have swept up a Not So Sleepy pretty comfortably, and it looked at 2 out like she would, and she didn't really kind of just go through and put the race to bed, and Not So Sleepy ended up coming back at her, and arguably, when you look at the photo, potentially a little bit unlucky not to get the full verdict. I don't know what you thought about that. Obviously very hard with all the snow going on to see that photo, but you know, you thought I didn't think Monmoral would be a champion hurdle horse this year, even though I'm a big fan of the horse. But you were still hoping, probably for racing's perspective, that he got in the mix and, you know, showed himself up as a potential challenger. He sacked it in very early. That wasn't his running, so he certainly won't be going down that route, I don't think. And leaves challengers pretty bare on the ground. Like, you think of the Christmas hurdle now, and it seems to be between Epatante and Goshen, and, you know, they're two flames that seem to be on the downburn rather than burning as flourishing as Honeysuckle is.
Yeah, I agree. It's a weird one with Monmoral. I think they could go for something like the Holloway's Hurdle. Do you know, the Grade 2 handicap that's on the same day as the Clarence House Chase? I think maybe something like that could be next for him. I definitely think they'll step up in trip. Can't imagine he'll run in the Christmas Hurdle and the Rail Keel. I'm not sure they want to take him around Cheltenham too soon. So that could come at a perfect time. Maybe something like the National Spirit as well later on in the season. Epatante was disappointing. If we wanted some form of champion hurdle contender, you'd expect her to go out and win, and like you say, whether Not So Sleepy actually did win the race, it's mind-boggling that in 2021 there isn't a camera that can find out the pixels, even when it's snowing or when it's dark, who won a race. We'll move on then to the Drimmoor, and Beacon Edge was victorious. It didn't look likely a long way from home. He's been scrubbed along. Fury Road, I thought, jumped brilliantly. I was on Fury Road. I actually think it was the best round of jumping over any horse that day at Fairyhouse. It was superb. If you go back and watch it, after the race I thought he's just not quick enough at the line, and then I've watched it back and he's just packed it in. He got to the front, he didn't want to be there, and I'm not sure what you do with a horse like that going forward, because he's got plenty of ability, it's clear to see.
Yeah, hard one to know. I was obviously right down at the final fence for the race, and I just wasn't convinced whatsoever by his attitude. He got gifted the lead after the last. Gabinaco kind of almost crumpled on landing and just about stayed up and got himself a length lead, and his head's gone straight up in the air, and the more that Brian Cooper pushed him, the more he went backwards rather than forwards. And you have to remember, in the Albert Bartlett a couple of years ago, I know me and you both had backed him, and I certainly had backed him and latest exhibition in the Bartlett, and Fury Road went past us with around 50 yards to go, and you think he's going to win. Didn't even come second in the end. Again, he put his head up in the air. So I saw a few people kind of saying, oh, he needs softer ground, oh, he needs 3 miles. But if he needs 3 miles, then you'd have thought he'd have been strong at the finish in a 2.5 mile race. And if he was with a length clear on one of the shortest run-ins in racing, that he'd have got the job done. Instead, I'd be siding with you. I thought he packed it in. I didn't think it was a great race, to be honest, Josh. I thought it was Beacon Edge's day in the sun. I'd be willing to take him on in any Grade 1, to be honest, from the rest of the season. Do
you think he'd stick at 2.5 and go for something like the Marsh at Cheltenham, or do you think they'd step up and trip and go for something like the Festival Novices Chase?
I think they're going to go to the Neville Hotels next over Christmas, which is over 3 on the 29th, and that will probably tell them where to go. He looks to be the type of horse, back in the old days when Leopardstown used to be a lot softer. The flow gas on the Dublin Racing Festival weekend was over 2.5, and it used to be on real soft ground, and you had like horses like Outlander win it and Disco won it, and he kind of reminds me of them. You know, a type of horse that could win a race like that on softer ground over 2.5. But I think in Cheltenham 2.4 is going to be too tight. 3 miles stretches him. He seems to be a horse that probably wants 2.6. Which is obviously pretty inconvenient because there's not many 2 mile 6 races out there.
He's a tricky one going forward. Phil Dorr won the Grade 3 juvenile hurdle, and I think we both thought that the ground was too quick. Gordon and Davey clearly thought that, because immediately after they took out 3 Stripe Life in the Royal Bond, which was disappointing. Ground was too quick, yet still got the job done. It looks like Chepstow, that the finale will probably be next, given the ground will be softer than Leopardstown at Christmas. Where do you think Phil Dorr ranks in the juveniles that we've seen? Is he the rightful 6-1 favourite for the Triumph Hurdle?
I think he is the rightful 6-1 favourite. I can't see a horse that's been better than him. I know the Skelton horse was quite impressive at Warwick, but he'd need to scrub up his jumping plenty in comparison to Phil Dorr.
He did beat Phil Dorr over in France.
He did indeed, and that would be interesting to see whether we get to see that form line and see, you know, over a year's, one going to Skelton, one going to Elliott, whether that can switch around in time. I think Phil Dorr could have the ability to turn that over time, just the way he goes about it. Like we commented when we were watching him go around the parade ring, this is the most relaxed horse I've ever seen. He was just plodding around, couldn't give two hoots that there was plenty of people watching him. There was every entitlement for a young horse to get quite buzzy in that parade ring, because they were 5-6 deep around it, and yet he couldn't give two hoots, and he ran around the whole race as if he was just in second gear, lobbing along, and just when Davy needed him, he put the race to bed. I think Meade's horse is pretty solid in second as well. He's a decent enough stick, and they were miles clear, so I thought there was plenty to like.
Yeah, I agree. I do think he's rightful favourite. I'm not in love with him. I'm almost waiting for a Willie Mullins juvenile to come out of the pack. You'd imagine there's going to be plenty to come out. Moving on then to Newbury on Friday, and there seemed to be a very special hurdling debutant in the 2 mile novice hurdle, and that was John Bon, a full brother to Navan. He cost £570,000, a joint record for a point-to-point purchase, and it took them 54 seconds from when the flag went down to actually get racing. Nobody wanted to make it because they knew that John Bon was quite hot. He was quite hot in the Newbury Gallops morning. He can get quite worked up, and maybe you beat a good horse in that way. You go no speed and turn it into a sprint, and maybe he blows up by pulling too hard. However, he settled. His jumping was electric. He almost went to the front under Aidan Coleman down the back very early on in the race, and once he got to the front, I think Aidan Coleman did the right thing and he just let him bowl along. To my surprise, John Bon wasn't fussed. He was settled. He just kept pinging away and then extended down the straight, and Good Risk at All was a good marker. He'd won a very smart bumper at Newbury last year, and he ran a good race, and I thought immediately after, Good Risk at All, if he could scrub up on his jumping, he's obviously got plenty to scrub up on, then the Betfair hurdle down the line could be something that he could be aimed at. But John Bon, we know you're a big fan of the mighty Navan.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of similarities with the way he was so enthusiastic going down to his obstacles. He jumped so well, and he took lengths out of his rivals, and that was one of Navan's prize assets, was the way he jumped, and probably his speed in the middle of races, not necessarily at the end of races, but the way he kind of put races to bed, not dissimilar to how John Bon did. It seems to be this thing over in English racing I've noticed. You know, I remember certainly with Ruby Walsh, when he had a good horse for Willie Mullins in a maiden hurdle, you just go out in front and dictate it. It seems to be a lot less common in England that you seem to have to take a lead, and the race can kind of become, you know, I know with John Bon, he had been so buzzy at the Gallops morning, I can understand why they didn't want to set off out in front. But to be honest, I think he could have won by 15 lengths if they'd set him out in front from flagfall, because he could have gotten 5 or 6 lengths out of the gates pretty easy, and the way he jumped, he would have just kept putting them under pressure. But it was a really nice start. I understand people are giving out about the supreme price. It is short. I'm not backing him at 7-2. I'm sure you're not backing him at 7-2. But that being said, he's put down a good marker, and as much as we're all hypothesising about Kilcrutz or Gerhard, they bring the best bumper form. They're going to have to be good horses to beat this horse.
It was looking almost like the champion hurdle picture, where we were scratching around for novices, especially this side of the RFC, to come out of the woodwork and put it up to the likes of Kilcrutz, Dysart Dynamo, Sir Gerhard's, and we finally got one. I definitely think John Bon so far looked in a league of his own over this side, and hopefully he can progress. Thinking of where he could be next, I think there's probably 3 options. Kempton Boxing Day would be one of those. I know Nicky's used the novice hurdle there for Altior. He's used it for Mr. Fisher. I'd imagine if they're going to go there, they'd probably go to the Sydney Banks, the route that they took Shishkin down over 2 miles and 3 furlongs. So I'd imagine that could be one route. Another one would be an introductory hurdle at Newbury on the 29th of December, or the Tolworth at Sandown. I know Nicky's used that for Captain Conan, Royal Boy and Lammy Surge in recent years, so I would be very, very surprised if we don't see him at one of those 3. But John Bon, plenty of talent, and he was very, very exciting. And yeah, the Supreme Novices Hurdle 7-2. It's good that we've got one, and I was thinking immediately after the race, hopefully that's just a British Cheltenham Festival winner, whichever race he goes for. We'll move on then to the long distance hurdle, and Thomas Darby. Come on, Thomas Darby. He got his head in front. He was due one of these big days. Paisley Park was very buzzy, went forward. To me, he just looks like he's not going to be winning one of these anytime soon. Miss Milner, who was slightly disappointing your fancy, what did you make of her running, and then what did you make of the winners as well? Yeah,
hard race. I thought it was a strangely run race. It was obviously run at a pretty decent clip. I don't think many would have expected Paisley Park to be as prominent as he was as well. I thought Mrs. Milner was probably on her head for the majority of that race. Maybe the combination of a step up in class and also the ground being, you know, on the lively side, and she probably would want a little bit more give. I thought she probably did her running trying to get to the coattails of Paisley Park, and on the blind side, you know, turning out of the back and into the home straight. She made up a fair bit of ground there, and probably that's ended up costing her, finishing maybe third in the end. That being said, it kind of set it up for Thomas Darby, who looked flat to the boards down the back, and it's ended up somewhat collapsing into his hands. So Thomas Darby, look, I think he's a nice horse. I agree, I think he deserves one of these. I don't think there's a prayer's chance really that this horse would win a Stayers hurdle. I don't think in a close finish he'd really have the resolution, but he's a good horse, and I thought it really was a fantastic ride from Sean Bowen, because he kept him up to his work down the back, and then obviously had the confidence to sit up on him after 2 out and let the horse just do his own thing, and he's ended up winning very impressively.
Yeah, Sean's obviously ridden him on his last 2 starts in the West Yorkshire Hurdle at Wetherby and here, and I'd almost like to see that relationship between Thomas Darby and Sean Bowen retained next time out as well, and moving forward this season. He seems to get a great tune out of Thomas Darby. But with regards to the horse, he's probably not going to win a Stayers hurdle, but it's going to be onwards and upwards. Ollie's going to campaign him that way, and hopefully he can put a couple of performances together. Be interesting to see if he turns up in something like the Long Walk Hurdle, where we might have Buzz, we might have Champ, who we'll get onto later. The feature on the Saturday was the Labrach Trophy, and as someone who put up Remastered at 16-1 in the preview video, coming around the bend, he was going best of all, no doubt. Before falling, it was a crashing fall, and I'm not going to say that he's going to win the race, because it was a long way from home and too far to say he would have, but he was definitely the short price favourite in running, and he was definitely going the best of them all, so maybe you could say the most likely winner at that point. He fell, unfortunately it wasn't to be. Cloudy Glen won the race. Fiddler on the Roof, who was a horse going into the race I wasn't a massive fan of, he's definitely gone up in my estimation from this. He stayed on resolutely all the way to the line, really put it up to Cloudy Glen. I'm not saying he's going to be a Gold Cup horse, I don't think he's good enough to even run in the race.
Yeah, as you say, I think you're entitled to think that Remastered would have gone very close. He jumped so well up until then as well, before taking that crashing fall, just when he was going upsides Cloudy Glen. Thought it was a really good ride. I'm a massive fan actually of Charlie Deutsch as a rider. He's quite a sympathetic rider, but he gets his horses to jump so well, and he just about left enough in the tank with Cloudy Glen, who's a little bit of a hot and cold performer, found a good day on the big day, and they've gotten a great pot out of it. Fiddler on the Roof, perhaps a little bit unlucky because he had to sway out of the way of Remastered when he did fall, so that probably did cost him a half length. That being said, he just does seem to he strikes me, Fiddler on the Roof, that like it looked like he was closing at the line, and yet I still believe if that race was another 100 yards, he still wouldn't have gone by. He's just that slight, like I think sometimes his running style is deceptive, and he is a very good horse as you've alluded to, but he does seem to shake hands with finishing second a little bit too much for my liking. I
thought he would have gone by. There's another 100 yards, so we'll agree to disagree. Let's move on then to this weekend's racing, and we'll start on Friday at Sandown with the Grade 2 Winter Novices Hurdle there. I'm a big fan of Brave Kingdom. I thought he was very impressive at Chepstow on his hurdling debut, and his debut for Paul Nicholls, having moved from Harry Whittington. Is there something in this that could be lurking that could beat him? I know he's a short price favourite.
Yeah, look, he was really impressive, Brave Kingdom, and he did it very nicely, and he jumped super as well. I just think the Kim Bailey horse in this could also be a very good horse, Fair Frontier. He was actually with the Queelies over in Ireland. He pushed Guard d'Assaut within a neck on his maiden hurdle debut last year, and has subsequently gone over to Kim Bailey. Look, he won an absolute Mickey Mouse race around Worcester, but he won it by 41 lengths. Jumping out to his right as well, so you'd think that going around Sandown would suit this horse a little bit better. It's a massive step up in class, but I think he's entitled to take it, and he's certainly a worthy challenger to the favourite.
Sticking then with Sandown on Saturday, we've got 2 Grade 1s, the Henry VIII Novices Chase and the Tingle Creek. We'll start with the Henry VIII Novices Chase, and it looks like, to me, Third Time Lucky and Edwardstone might be a league above the rest of them, but there are some in there, horses that you like, Manila Drama, Warlord. I'm going to stick with Third Time Lucky. I think what he's done so far this season warrants favouritism. I think he'll be very difficult to beat. You know, he jumps well, you know, he stays to the line, and he's done everything right. Definitely think that the race that Edwardstone won at Warwick is deeper than any race Third Time Lucky's ran in this season.
Yeah, hard to know, because as you say, Third Time Lucky's been so impressive with his jumping. It looks like a track like Sandown would suit, because it's such a test of jumping, and be interesting to see. Edwardstone was really impressive at Warwick. I think he'd actually won the previous day at Warwick as well, when he got brought down in the race that Do Your Job ended up winning. I think he would have won pretty comfy that day as well. So he's got a good chance. And then you've got the two horses that came from that Carlisle graduation chase, and I thought that was a really good piece of form with Warlord and Manila Drama. I thought Manila Drama was arguably a little bit unlucky that day. He might be a lurker in this market if Donald McCain brings him down. He's 7-1. Look, Donald McCain has had a serious season. His horses are running out of their skin, and this horse is a little bit of a mad horse, but he's got plenty of ability. He showed that when he was second to My Drogo at Aintree last year, and I just think he might be overpriced.
When you think a horse trained by Don McCain with the first name of Manila is going to win, they usually win about 7 in a row. So Manila Drama could go mightily close in the Henry VIII. The Grade 1 Tingle Creek is the feature on the card, and it looks to me, I think so. There's doubts here and there about the ground or whatever. I think Chacun Pour Soi is going to run here. He's 6-4 favourite. Newbury and Newcastle 7-4. Grenadine, Hitman. I just think Chacun Pour Soi, if he turns up, will win.
I think it's fair when they're both completely 100%. I think Chacun Pour Soi is even more than a tier above, personally speaking. My one worry, it's just a race that I'm not going to have a bet in. I want Chacun Pour Soi to win. If you nailed me to a wall for a selection, I would pick Chacun Pour Soi, but there is a part of me that goes, if Newbury Negra is going to beat Chacun Pour Soi this year, it will be on Saturday. Chacun Pour Soi usually needs his first run. He was a little bit disappointing in the Hilly Way last year. Got beaten fresh by A Plus Tard the year before. He just can be a hint vulnerable, and Newbury Negra was so impressive. I couldn't back anything else in the race. I think, like, if you're thinking that there might be a small notch between Chacun and Newbury Negra, there's a tier back down to the likes of Grenadine and Hitman. Like, I'm willing to be proven wrong. Obviously, I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again, but I just think the two of them are miles clear.
The one thing I'd say about Newbury Negra is he goes better on quick ground and he goes better fresh. This is quite a quick turnaround. If you'd imagine the rain's going to come this week, it could go off soft ground as well at Sandown. Might not be his ideal conditions. I'd have doubts about him. Like, if I owned him, I'd have put him away after the Schlur and gone straight to the Champion Chase and prayed for good to soft, good ground, and he'd go mightily close, 100%. It's not all about Cheltenham, and I'm glad that they've come here, because it is a fascinating clash if Chacun Pour Soi runs. We'll then move over to Aintree. And the Grade 2 Many Clouds Chase took a bit of a hit today when Nicky Henderson said that Champ won't be running here. He wasn't going to run in the Betfair Chase, and then he was going to come here. That's not happening. He's still, and this is positive for the Anti-Post series, he's still in the Long Walk Hurdle on the 18th of December. I've got a feeling that he is going to run in that Long Walk Hurdle. He'll stick to hurdles this season, and he could turn up in the Stayers, and that would be fantastic for my 20-1 slip on the Anti-Post videos. But looking at this field now, Protectorat 7-4 favourite, Native River is 5-2, Alboom Photo, The Boom 3-1, Imperial Aura 6s, and bar those. I'm of the opinion if Alboom Photo runs, he wins. If not, I'm going to take a chance with Foozle Raffles at 9-1, who's also got an entry in the Peterborough Chase. And he's Nicky Henderson's only entry in that race, but he's on the drift in that race, and with Champ coming out, you'd imagine he could be first string here. He obviously won over 3 miles and 1 furlong in the Charlie Hall. Definitely fortunate that day with Chamblou coming down, but he's won over that distance in a race that's similar to this. Protectorat, Native River, Alboom Photo. You are the leader of the Alboom Photo fan club. If he was to run here, does he win?
I think he'd take an awful lot of beating. He's the only real proper Gold Cup horse in this field. You know, I thought that his runs last year, I know people want to, you know, put cold water on them, but at the end of the day, he's only been beaten by Manella Indo and A Plus Tard a couple of lengths, and people are telling us that A Plus Tard is the second coming, you know, and he only got beaten a couple of lengths by him, and then just got nosed out of it by Clan des Obeaux, who's excellent everywhere bar Cheltenham. So he's still got very good form, I think, fresh. He's sometimes a little bit stuffy. He was a bit stuffy at Tremor last year, but my only problem is I don't know whether he's going to run or not, because he was 5-4, 6-4 earlier in the week. He's now 3-1. that would be a bit of a concern. I think if he runs, he wins, personally. I'd be interested in another one, a horse I do like a lot, Simply the Bets. Whether I'd have a bet on him or not, I'm not so sure, but you know, he's one that I'm intrigued by going up in trip. I thought he ran actually a really big race in the Paddy Power Gold Cup of top weight, having been off for so long, and he's probably worth a crack at Grade 2 level.
The Beecher Chase is the feature on the day, believe it or not, and there's some good horses in there. Ascaria Tenor looks like he's definitely going to run. I'm going to take a chance on a Hilly at 20-1 for Venetia Williams. It's her time of year. She's a fantastic trainer this time of year, especially handicap chases. He had a year and a half off the track before finishing a close second in the Classic Chase. I definitely think there's another big one in him, despite being 11 years old. He would be one that I think would have a great chance. Likewise with Cap de Nord. It looks like this has been the plan for a long time. But I'd have a slight favourable mention to a Hilly over the two, 20-1.
Yeah, I backed a Hilly plenty of times last year. I was heartbroken plenty of times as well, because he ran such storming races. Always seemed to bump into one. He went very close in the Grand National Trial at Haydock as well, when given a peach of a ride. I think Captain Orr's got a good chance in this. As you say, he seems to be trained from this in mind. He ran a pretty decent race last time out. He seems to be coming to the boil. Christian Williams certainly thought earlier on this season that he would take to the fences, that this sort of test would see him to best effect. And as you say, it has been probably an early season goal for him. So I think they've been kind of crescendoing to this moment, and fingers crossed he can run a good race, and he's at an each way price.
Captain Ord then for ABW. In the Beecher Chase, we'll move over to Navan on Saturday, and the Navan Novices Hurdle over 2.5 miles. It's a Grade 2 contest. I think Ginto's going to run here. He was taken out of the one last month, and Hollow Games won that one. I think Ginto will win this if he runs. But we should mention the Grade 3 Novices Chase over 2 miles and 1 furlong, because there are a certain Appreciate It and Fernie Hollow entered up. We're finally seeing these good William Mullins novices out in the entries. They've also got the option of going to the 2 mile 1 furlong beginners chase at Punchestown on the Sunday. I think Appreciate It will turn up here, and Fernie Hollow will go to Punchestown. If
they could jump the way, say, Third Time Lucky jumped, you'd think they're serious prospects, because they've probably got better engines than Third Time Lucky, but he obviously is such a good jumper of a fence. You'd love them to do something like that, and to run well, and to show probably. I think they'll come on plenty for the runs, especially Fernie Hollow. We haven't seen him in so long. It's been over a year since that last run against Bob Ollinger, so he's likely to need a run, hence why, as you say, you'd think he'll be the one starting off in just the beginner's chase at Punchestown. Fingers crossed he does, because I'd love to see him on Sunday. I'm heading down for the John Durkan, and it'd be great to see such a special horse like him, and hope that the engine is still intact, and Appreciated, one of my favourites going about, really. I think he's a super horse, and I'm just hoping he can translate his hurdle form over fences.
So looking down the line, I know we're going to mention this on the Cheltenham preview, or the Cheltenham Anti-Post preview on Monday. I doubt very highly both of these are going to turn up in the Arkle. Which one, I want the name of the horse, 2 words, would be most likely to step up in trip to 2.5 miles and maybe take on the likes of Bob Ollinger?
Appreciate it, I'd say.
Appreciate It for Andrew, maybe. I just think Fernie Hollow. I think Willie Mullins made a real strong point in his stable tour that Fernie Hollow's got lots of stamina, and I kind of get the impression that he's almost pointing in that direction, but who knows? It's only the start of their campaign. It's fascinating. I cannot wait to see them out this weekend if they do come out. 2 very exciting novice hurdlers this year, Kilcrit and Sir Gerhard, who definitely come in to this season with the best bump of horn last year. They're entered up in the maiden hurdle at Cork, the 2 miles. Dysart Dynamo's in there as well. He's also in the 2.5 mile maiden hurdle that weekend. But the feature on that Cork card is the Hillyway Chase. It looks to me like Allaho's going to go to the John Durkan, Chacun Pour Soi is going to go to the Tingle Creek, and Enegamine will start his season here in the Hillyway Chase.
Yeah, I can see what's going to happen here on Sunday, Josh. I've looked into the future, and Enegamine is going to win, and he will be somehow shortened for the champion chase, and yet he's going to end up facing and beating the exact same horses he beat last year, the likes of the Captain Guinness, that wouldn't tie the shoelaces of Shakan or Shishkin or these sort of horses. So we actually won't find out anything about Enegamine. I'm still on the fence with him. I'd like to see him beat a real proper horse, and I don't believe he has done yet. I don't believe he's beaten a Shishkin. He hasn't beaten a Shakan Poursuois. He hasn't even beaten a Nube Negra. That type of a horse that's a real standard bearer. And he's not going to in the Hilly way either, because the entries are as so, and he's not going to face Shakan down there or anything like that. You wouldn't have thought, unless Willie's lost his mind. So I think he'll win. I think he'll be probably pretty good. He'll go out in front. He's usually a very good jumper. But I don't think we'll actually learn anything long term.
And at this stage of the season then, with Shakan Poursuois out, with Enegramine out this weekend, and Shishkin not running this weekend, which is a massive downer, who would be your idea of the Champion Chase winner?
I think it's hard, because I don't think this is ideal with Shishkin, personally speaking. The fact that he's not running... if you put a gun to my head, probably a month ago I would have said Shishkin, really, because I do have my doubts about Shakan around Cheltenham. I don't want them to be doubts, but I do have them. I think he's a fair price at 6 to 1 if you wanted to back him, because I'll end up backing him. And I think he could well win at Tingle Creek, and if he wins at Tingle Creek he'll be 3 to 1 or something like that. But I would certainly play the two of them against an Enegramine. An Enegramine would be third of 3 on that list for me.
Yeah, interesting. I think I'd be with Shishkin, but I did hear something in the week that would be slightly concerning. I think there's more to it with him not running in the Tingle Creek, because he said he's fit. Nicky Henderson did a blood test on him and a tracheal wash, and he wasn't happy. We'll then go to the big feature of the weekend over in Ireland at Punchestown on Sunday, the John Durkan over 2.5 miles. It's a Grade 1 contest, and Envoi Allen is 11 to 10 favourite for this. And looking in the race, you've got Allaho there, Fakir Dudery, Asterion Thalonge, all very good horses on their day. You suspect Allaho won't be fully revved up, but Envoi Allen, from what he did on his reappearance, should he be that short in a race like this?
No. And I love Envoi Allen, and I think he's a class horse, and I think he might take a fair bit of beating on Sunday, but 11 to 10 is a real skimpy price, given that this is a real proper Grade 1 test, and with the rain that's been around, I think it will be a test. I think a lot of these will stand their ground. I think Allo will run, Fakir will run, you know, maybe an Asterion Thalonge, maybe a Tornado Flyer, Melon, you know, horses that have run well in the race before. I'm absolutely fascinated by Asterion Thalonge personally. I can't wait to see him back out. I thought he clicked it finally together at the back end of last season when winning a handicap off a mad mark under Brian Cooper at Punchestown, and I think his, you know, I still think there's probably a Grade 1 in the tin there somewhere with him, but look, it's just a fascinating race, not one that I'm probably going to have much of a play in. I'd probably take Allaho on. I don't think he'll be revved up. Fakir Dudery, never been a horse that's really done it for me, so it does come down to Envoi Allen, but you're more hoping that he goes and does it without me needing to back him at that price.
No, I completely agree, especially with the anti-post interest. Envoi Allen, hopefully he wins, but the tricky thing is if he wins this, will they step him up to 3? Will they go down to 2? Will they stick it 2.5? I'm fingers crossed they do. And Asterion Thalonge, like you say, right-handed, he'll love that. Now it's time for our weekend best bets. 5 last week, 4 ran. Boot Hill was a non-runner late on. Miller's Bank came down when looking like he'd just picked up the pieces for Pic D'Orhy coming down, massively disappointing. And then we had Fanny on Destraval at 7 to 2. He won. LA Bell won the first race at Newbury on Saturday, and then Killer Clown, who was disappointing and probably went a mile too soon. Let's move on then to this weekend, and I've got 4 again, 1 running tomorrow in the 3:22 at Market Raisin, and Chianti Classico for Kim Bailey. I think he's a really smart bumper horse, and Kim Bailey thinks the world of him. He was second in a good Ascot bumper. He's 7 to 4 to win tomorrow. I think he will be doing that. On Friday at Exeter in the 2:05, we've got Boot Hill, who I did put up last week. He was a non-runner. Harry Fry has confirmed that he is going to run here, all being well. He was very stylish in his work against Metier. He galloped all over him in that Newbury Gallop morning. He's a massive horse. He should suit a fence down to a T. He's 6 to 4. I think he'll be winning. And then on Chepstow on Saturday, 3:09 in the 2.5 mile novice hurdle, Complete Unknown, who finished 3rd on his debut for Paul Nicholls at Warwick last time out. I think he'll be winning. And then my nap of the weekend comes at 8 to 1 in the 3:35 at Sandown, the last race on Saturday. And it's going to be Mac the Man for Evan Williams, who won this race in 2019, beating Protector at that day. I think he was off 128, and Song for Someone and that was good form. He then went chasing, it didn't happen for him. He reverted back to hurdles. He had a good third in the Imperial Cup behind Langer Dan, and he was streaked ahead of the field in the Martin Pipe next time out, but just bumped into Galopin de Champs, who was even more well handicapped. I think Mac the Man is still working his mark, 8-1. He's in good form. He won Exeter last month, and off 131, I think he'll be bang there on Saturday. So Mac the Man, 8-1 in that 2 mile listed handicap hurdle will be my nap of the weekend. Andrew, take it away.
Yeah, I had 5 myself, had a fair few non-runners last week, so hopefully a couple more runners this time round, starting off with Sandown in that 225 on Friday, the Grade 2 race. I'm going to back Fair Frontiers, the Kim Bailey horse I gave a decent word for earlier. He's currently 4-1. I think that's a fair price against the favourite. Saturday at Navan in the 253, a horse I had a good word for in the audio podcast yesterday was Wah Wah, who did me a good term at Nace last time out when winning very impressively. He's gone up plenty in the weights, but he's still going to be down the weights in this race because it's a better class of race. I think he's got another win in him for Dermot McLaughlin. In the 150 at Sandown on Saturday, the Henry VIII, quite like Manila Drama each way at 7-1. I think he's overpriced if he gets declared for Donald McCain. And then Sunday 2 for Punchestown, the 1225, a rated novice hurdles will start the card. Crowns Major for Emmett Mullins. I'd say he'll end up going off favourite, but I think he'll be a backable price, and I think he'll win. And the 305, my nap of the weekend, a long distance handicap chase, a horse called Ragnar Lodbrok, who I'm hoping will get an each way price about. He was actually not a bad novice hurdler last year. He's had 3 fairly nondescript runs over fences, but he's been given a rating of 119, and considering he was placed in a couple of Grade 2s last year, 119 could well be workable, and I think he's the type of horse that will improve for handicap chases. So Ragnar Lodbrok would be my nap of the weekend.
Youngsters not mentioned. Classic Getaway, who cost the same as John Bon, £570,000, is entered in a 2.5 mile maiden hurdle at Navan on Saturday, including the likes of Journey with Me, Dysart Dynamo, Flame Bearer, Glenglass. So if a couple of those turned up, it could be a brilliant race. But we do hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you ever so much for all the support on the latest video. It's great to see so many of you at Fairyhouse on Sunday as well. Thank you very much for coming and saying hello, and do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please, big thumbs up, and we'll see you soon.